Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. This video, I'm refinishing a table for, well, it's for some family. They asked me back before Christmas, and I just now getting around to it where I can. She says it's my wife's mother's cousin. Yeah, I think that's right. It's family, that's all that matters. But they told me that the top is kind of sticky, and I could see, they've had it for a long time. It's got some stains. It looks like some paint on here. Maybe their daughter might have been doing a like craft project or something, or coloring or painting. It's got on here, and it happens. If you live in a house, you have furniture, stuff's gonna happen. So be it. So actually, I made a table a few years ago for me and my wife, and it's starting to look like it too. So, but what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna sand it off. I'm gonna get with her about maybe a stain color, and if she wants stain, if not, because sometimes when you sand this, if there is stain on it, then it kind of gets an uneven look when you go through and you try to sand all that off. So we're gonna try to get with her on that. The table's fairly simple. It's one of them split tables. So I got an extra panel here in the middle. They call them split leaf tables, I think that's what they call them. But I got this extra here in the middle. I can take it out, and I'm gonna try probably sand it and do everything separate. That way you can get down in that line, then inside the crease where it separates, and it don't look kind of uneven. It flows real good, just in case some of that does show in. But I got this pedestal table. I got the pedestal over here, and those are real simple to take apart. You can do it with a ratchet and socket or a wrench, but I'm gonna show you something about that. So here's the pedestal for it, and right here you can take this punch. This is where the top screws to it. Some of them are like Allen wrenches. You got to do it. These were actually just Phillips head screws. So that's all the manufacturer, whoever made it, how they do it. But you can take it apart with these bolts and take this top plumb off. And these legs are the same way on the inside. But you can see this, all they done, well, I'll flip it and show you a little easier. You can see how it is. It's just boards, they're cut at an angle, and the center's hollow, and you can see it's about every one of them. If you have any spiders come in your home, which if you have a home, you have spiders in your home, they go in there, and that's a place that about every one of them I've ever seen, that's a place you'll find some spider webs. But you can see it's just bolts. You take that off, and you may have to knock it out a little bit, but them come right out. And how they make them, you can see the lines right there and right there. It's just 3 boards glued together. They'll trace a design on it. And what they'll do is they will use a bandsaw or whatever, and you can see the line, a little cut in right there where they've used a bandsaw, and they'll cut it close to that line. Then they'll take a sander and sand it down to that line. And they do it, whoever done this has done a real good job. You can't see a mistake other than right there on it, and that's on the bottom, so you're not going to see that anyways unless you do what I do, flip it. But what they'll do is they'll take it and they'll just glue all them boards together, and then they'll put it in a lathe, and they'll probably like sandwich it in. And I don't know how they do that without it slipping, but they'll sandwich it in between their center and their chuck, and they'll cut them designs in it, and it comes out. It's beautiful. I think pedestal tables are beautiful. I've never made one or had really the ability, because I mean that takes a lot of skill right there. But we're gonna get to taking this apart so we can get to sanding on it. And usually these are not real tight. I tighten them up, I'm gonna make sure they're real tight. Your weight kind of over time kind of loosens it up, and this one you ain't gonna knock out, it's ready to come off. But your weight, you put a lot of weight on it over time. And all these are just regular nuts. They ain't got a nut in the washer like that right there. They ain't got no kind of locking to them or anything, no lock washer, nothing. And those I imagine are epoxied in, and you can see the angle they got them at. That's pretty cool. But it's that simple to get that took off. And this hardware, we're gonna want to put it separate somewhere I can't lose it. That way when we go to put this back together, I've got it. You can say a couple turns with the ratchet and then they're ready to come off. They're loose enough you can loosen. Well, I'll drop that. They're loose enough you can loosen them with your hands at that point. And the top same way as these. It don't have any kind of bolt. I got a hold on this side. It's just that nut. Say some of that cobwebs coming off. But it's just got I just got to hold the nut on that side, and then we just pull it out like this one. Pull it off. And that's when you're redoing the table, that's the first thing you want to do is take it apart and assess what you're going to do or how you're going to do it. I mean, they're not always the same. I've redone a few of them, and about every one I've had to restain for that situation that I spoke of about the way the stain or the finish has affected the wood. That's simple, all the legs off. Got that washer. Now we're gonna do this. I imagine it's the same size. And when we're said and done, we're just gonna put every bit of this back together. The legs, and you can see how big a hole they've done. That's for adjustment. The legs are fairly, that way, well, let me say this. The legs can be kind of tricky because they have a little bigger hole, and that way when you go to put them back on, it may want to rock. So they're kind of tricky to line up. Now this right here, they put this big hole on it. That way it's centered and all the weights are distributed evenly. That way it don't want to sit there, or it don't want to have too much on one side and you put something on the side and it just falls right over. So that's why that's like that. But it comes apart that simple. First steps first when you are roof finishing table, and that is find out what kind of wood you are working with. So I sanded all the finish down, at least most of it down off this, and I do believe this is white oak, which is, that sounds a little better, which is absolutely beautiful, beautiful wood. So judging by this and judging by this, I do not believe this has a stain on it. I believe it has just like a clear coat on it. I did message the owner, and she said to match it best you can. So what I'm thinking about doing, because this piece will not be seen at all, this is what holds the pedestal and the top together, is I'm going to put at least a small part of it, I'm going to put a finish on, just a clear finish, and see how it looks to this. And I'll probably leave something that still has the finish on to see how it matches. That way I can still sand the rest. So with that being said, that takes a lot off the labor side of this, or at least the drying time. Because if you know anything about sanding finish off, it's time consuming. It's very time consuming. The only thing with that I'm concerned with is the design across the apron of the table. I know it's kind of, I don't know if y'all can see it, but there's a design across that apron that was loud. It will take quite a bit of hand sanding, as my sander can't get in those little grooves it's got in it. So, but that takes a lot. It does. It saves it a lot. And it saves a lot of trouble too. So I'm going to run with that. I'm going to sand that down smooth all the way down to 220. I start with 40 just to get the most I can off, and then I go through the steps. 40. I used to start at 60, but I found 40 and I like it better. So 40, then whatever. I'm out of 80, so I do gotta run time to get some 80. But it's 40, 80, 120, 180, 220. 220, I sometimes go sand it twice with 220 just in case anything I missed, and you know it smooths it up a lot. But yeah, other than that, I mean that's where I'm at. That's what I'm going with. And actually, I talked about running that through the planer. I may run this through the planer. This piece, I got a 13-inch planer. I can't. This is 15 inches. I got 13-inch planer. So, but I was gonna do that on. My planer's got two gearbox settings. I was gonna run it on the slowest one. That would save a lot of time with sanding. But that's part of it. It's what you gotta do. You find out what type of material it is. If this was like poplar or something like that, which I can tell you by the weight, it's not. This explains how heavy this top is. It's white oak. It's a good solid wood. That this had a stain on it. So judging by that fact that it's white oak, I may, like I said, I may just run through and put a finish on it. So if that's the case, that is awesome. You know, it saves me a lot of time. It gives them, because they've got chairs that match this as well. It puts it that they look, that like I said, that they still look good. So I'm gonna get back to sanding, and I'm gonna try not to bore y'all with watching me sand this, but with all the sanding done, it's down to bare wood. And there's a few dark spots in it. You know, that's gonna happen with already having finish on it. We have decided not to put any stain on it. This is a beautiful white oak table and a clear coat. I've already established that with that little small piece of wood, that it will go good, or the clear coat will go just like it looked before. Might be a shade different, but it will still match the chairs that my client has. So, I mean, after hours and hours of sanding, this is where we're at. So, it's time. I'm gonna just put my finish on. I'm using, let me get it here, clear semi-gloss. It's a spar urethane, and it matches. That's what I put on that small piece. It matches the table the way it looked before. So, you know, all's good there. So, I'm gonna brush this on just like any other finish I ever do. Try to do it all in one shot. That way I've got, like I finish today, tomorrow morning I come out and put the second coat on and I'm done. You know, just gotta let it dry. So, yeah, that's about it. If you got any questions, comments, I appreciate you. Just put them in the comment section. I read them all. I may not answer them all, but I read them all. Questions I do try to answer. You know, give me a like, subscribe. I appreciate it. Really do. I really do love it. If you like the outdoors, check out my other channel, Born Free Outdoors. It's also on YouTube. And y'all have a good one. God bless.